Hey guys, it's Courtney and I am here with another video for Trinity Stamps. Today I'm going to be creating a very shimmery card with the Hopeful Flowers stamp set as well as this sentiment from Let Love Grow. I am starting off with my Misty here and I have a piece of navy colored cardstock and this is cut down to 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. And I'm just going to be using this one image from the Hopeful Flowers stamp set. I'm going to treat my card panel here with my anti-static tool, and once I have my stamp position there in the corner, I'm going to stamp this with my Versamark ink, stamp that down, rotate my card panel 180 degrees and stamp that down again. Now I did reposition my stamp for the other two corners just because for some reason it just didn't look right when I stamped it the same way 4 times. So I realigned that. And again, I'll go in and stamp this with my Versamark ink and rotate that 180 degrees and stamp that again. Once my stamping was done, I am using the Gold Pearl embossing powder by Wow. And you'll see here that I had some stray embossing powder stick to areas that I didn't necessarily want it to stick to. So I'm just taking a dry paintbrush and I'll sweep that away before taking my heat tool to my card panel. I have a paintbrush that I kind of keep on hand specifically for this. Not that you can't use it for anything else, but I just find that this is best paintbrush and probably like 50 cents at Michael's, but it works great for this. So I did let my heat tool heat up for about 30 seconds before bringing this to my card panel. Being we're heating all 4 sides, I wanted to try to minimize the warping as much as I possibly could. Once I had that all heat set, we're going to move on to the coloring or painting or whatever you want to call this. But I'm bringing out my Perfect Pearls, which is something that I've had in my stash for many, many years. So I do like to use everything that I have here and there. So I figured this is a great card to do this with. So I'm just taking the handle end, I guess, of my paintbrush and just taking out just a little bit of those Perfect Pearls, mixing that with 2 or 3 drops of water. And then I'll just kind of drop in the color onto one of those flowers. Now you'll see that it will kind of bead up, which is fine. My cat is scratching on her scratch board and playing with her toy that squeaks and chirps or whatever it does, so ignore that. I'm sorry. But you'll see that this kind of beads up, and that's fine. You'll have those embossed lines to kind of keep it from seeping out. And I'm rotating my card panel each time so that each image has the same color for the same flower. Now, not all of these Perfect Pearls are labeled as far as what color they are. I think back in the day when I purchased these, they came in a set of 4. I don't think there was names to these colors at first. I know they do have names now. And the next one that I'll move on to is called Marigold. Of course, it's a orange color. And I'm doing the same thing, just dropping in that color for each of the flowers that I want to be this orange color and coloring them in all 4 images. Now keep in mind that this is not watercolor paper. This is regular cardstock, so it's not going to be able to take as much moisture as watercolor paper would. However, I didn't have a problem. I didn't have any kind of warping or any kind of change in texture to the cardstock itself. I am using 110-pound cardstock, which does help. The thinner the cardstock, the more likely you are going to be having that warping. Next, I'm moving on to this mint color, and I'm going to color in the remaining 2 flowers out of this little bouquet here. And then we'll move on to the leaves. Now, there are some of these areas, especially now that it's embossed, that I'm not sure if they're part of the flower, if it's a flower petal or a leaf. So I'm going to color those in green. For an image like this, especially once we emboss it, we're losing some of those lines a little bit. If you color it green, nobody's going to know the difference. They're going to think that it is a leaf. So we're going to call it a leaf. So once all of my color was down, I did put aside my panel to dry for about 5 minutes. It doesn't take too long to dry, but I should have left it for maybe 10, but we moved on to the rest of the card once I let this dry for about 5 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and add my sentiment from the Let Love Grow stamp set. I'm going to stamp this right here in the center. I'm going to treat my panel here with my anti-static tool. Again, being we've kind of left fingerprints and things like that, we want to make sure that we don't have any stray embossing powder. I'm going to stamp this again with my Versamark ink and use that same gold pearl embossing powder to heat set this as well. Now you may notice here in the top right hand corner I have some shimmer, I guess, coming from one of those leaves that apparently wasn't dry. I didn't notice it here, I noticed it later, but we will go back and fix that. Once my sentiment was heat set, this is when I began to do my layering here, and this is when I realized that there was a problem. So I took this peachy pinky color cardstock here, and it was honestly just from my scrap bin, and this is cut down to just a little bit bigger than the 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. I adhered my panel with my Tombow Mono multi glue to that, and that is when I realized I had this excess shimmer in the top right hand corner as well as a little bit on the bottom left hand corner. So being it was still wet, I tried to take a damp paintbrush, clean damp paintbrush, and just add a little bit of water and dab that up. This is actually my shirt because I didn't have a paper towel handy, and I didn't want to let the water sit on there too long, being this is just regular cardstock. It took away the color, it did not take away the shimmer. So in order to hide that, I decided to take a shimmer spray, and I did this off camera. I have like a box that I use for any sprays, and I covered up the entire thing. Let that dry for about 15 minutes and then adhered that panel onto a 4 1/2 by 4 1/2 white card base, just leaving a small border around the edge. And you'll see my shimmer spray there kind of globbed in some of those areas. I just took the clear Nuvo drops, added a few drops to kind of hide those, and that is it. That's the card for today, guys. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.